I'm here to share with you the age-old wisdom of learning. I'm sure all of you here, you want to learn. But I'd like to explore the way that we've been learning and why the way we have been learning has not been very effective for some of us. Some of us are so good that we can become doctors. Some of us, like me, can never become one. So what is this issue here? I'd like to share with you, I actually can study quite well. When I was in Singapore, I was actually the top 1% from Singapore. And moving on, I was actually selected to be in the gifted stream, not only once, but twice. Once in primary 3 and once in primary 6. But my mother forbid me to enter that school because it was so far from home. So in secondary school, I went to one of the best in Singapore, and I graduated with flying colors in my O-levels. But after that, when I went to Polytechnic doing my tertiary education, I realized that I did not know how to learn. And after 4 years in a Polytechnic, while my fellow colleagues and schoolmates graduated within 3 years, I graduated the school after 4 years. Basically, I got kicked out. So knowledge is power. That's what we have been told all along, isn't it? But let me share with you that is knowledge really power? If you Google knowledge, there's tons and tons of information coming out from this word in just less than a second. And this will be some of the slides or pictures that you can find related to knowledge. So are we still learning? Let's explore this wonderful idea of learning. And I'd like to share with you because I realize that there is a very different, distinct understanding between learning and studying. If you are in school, you can either study or you can learn. So let me share with you a little bit more of what I've been doing all these years. You see, we can ask ourselves, do we learn? How do we actually learn? And many of times, we ask ourselves, are we learning the way? Especially when it comes to exam period. Students were blacked out. No phones, no Facebook. Once in a while, you see them post, I'm stressed. And learning as a child, we learned, we had a lot of fun. Remember the times when we were in kindergarten? Yeah, we had so much fun. But as we grow up, we start to question, what is the world all about? What is really relevant to my life? And when we reach tertiary, we begin to underestimate the power of learning. Learning has no longer become fun for us. We sit in many lecture halls. And I have the privilege of being a speaker in many colleges and universities. And sometimes when I was waiting at the back, I'll move to the back and I'll see students moving their Facebook, playing with their laptops, watching movies while the lecturer is speaking. Is that learning? I think learning should be fun. So as we grow older, we become to have a lot of misconception about learning, and because we are forced to study, to memorize, to understand things that we don't really want to, we begin to have a very great frontier and a defense against the real power of learning. And that becomes a great challenge. Because as lecturers try to implant information, goodness, and knowledge to students, but we had a war in front of us. So, and in the normal education system, we're always told not to make mistakes because mistakes are disastrous. We get penalized by making mistakes. But let me share with you, in the real world, it is through mistakes that we learn, it is through mistakes that we grow. And unless we understand the power of making mistakes, which is part of learning, we will never learn the way we should. And because of that, we start to have a lot of fear. What if? What if I fear the exams? I think this is very common among students, right? So, I feared my exams 4 years straight and I got kicked out. Bill Gates failed his exams. Steve Jobs dropped out. I think if you talk about it, I'm not asking you to drop out, students. I'm just asking you to understand, is learning equals to studying, equals to academic excellence, equals to success in life? You need to start asking these questions. So we have common excuses. You can't teach an old dogs new tricks. By the way, old dogs will never want to learn new tricks. And we have started to have misconception. I don't want to be embarrassed. We are living in Asia, and our face is very valuable. My point is, how much is your face worth? Is it $1 million? But we're so afraid to be embarrassed, we are not willing to make mistakes. We're not willing to be embarrassed. And because of that, we played it safe. And by playing it safe, we stay in what we call comfort zone. And good things outside the comfort zone, we can never touch them because we're not willing to step out because we're afraid to make mistakes. So I want to share with you, friends, I am a great example of somebody who have made great mistakes. Been in business, failed, and I've been there, done that, went bankrupt. So what? You won't die. And I didn't succeed at school. I mean, this one is what I always tell people. I didn't make it. I didn't go to universities. But today, I'm glad to be able to have the chance to speak in the universities and many other universities around the world. Because I'm here to share that learning does not come from external. It has to come from within. What do you really want? And we will explore a little bit more. And we begin to have a lot of misconceptions, a lot of myths, a lot of defense against learning. But when we stop learning, we die. I'm a Chinese, and in Chinese we say the day you stop learning, you start dying. I'm not too sure if you have that saying in other cultures or other races. And from young, we were always told to learn. But the thing is, as we grow up and go into different academic schools, we lost the fun of learning. I like to put fun back. So let's see what learning should be. And the best source of learning, I said, is through mistakes. Because the biggest mistakes you can ever make is too afraid to make one. We have young kids willing to make mistakes, and they learn. Today we see a lot of adults, a lot of young adults, a lot of youths not willing to make mistakes, not willing to come out from the comfort zone, playing it safe. When will we start to learn? And because of that, I began to work with a lot of big corporates. And my exposure with all these multinational companies let me understand that to learn, we need to explore. And I've worked with big banks, big multinational companies, and local schools. And I realized there's a huge difference between their culture and what we have in Asia. So I began to find who is the wisest and the cleverest man on planet Earth. And of course, our dear friend came up. Yeah. And he said this: there are two things that are infinite, the universe and man's stupidity. I'm not sure about the universe. And I thought, this man is so clever. Let's Google and see which race he came from. And amazingly, he's a Jew. Okay, so since a Jew, let us explore what's so special about the Jews. And I went and researched about the wisest man on planet Earth, and King Solomon came out. Okay, so what is wisdom? Again, Googling, let me see so many. But I really want to find the intrinsic value of wisdom. What makes Albert Einstein so clever? And I said, we found King Solomon. And when I Google further, he apparently is the richest man on planet Earth with 2.1 trillion worth in today's time. Now, our greatest and the wealthiest man right now is only about $65 billion worth. This guy, King Solomon, was worth 2.1 trillion. So how did that happen? And I began to study, and I realized that he was offered anything he wanted. And he asked for an understanding heart. What do we mean by understanding heart? A heart that understands things, a heart that wants to give. And so, where do we actually start to acquire some wisdom in life? And I explore human psychology. Realize we started from young, our parents. Don't do this. Like our first speaker, he showed us a cockroach. We were told that cockroaches are dangerous. They are dirty. But in fact, they contain one of the animals that contain the most proteins. But we're never told to consume cockroaches when you were young. Anyone told to do that? Well, now that you know, you may want to consider this for your food for your kids. That requires a lot of wisdom. And from our favorite teachers and lecturers in schools, we were told. Now, many of us are very fortunate to live in big cities, so we have access to books, we have access to movies. We get more wisdom as we learn. And as I researched what's so unique about the Jewish education system, and I realized this. At the age of 6, they will go to school. And they studied like what we do, 9 to 5. But after that, what is most important, after school, they went back home to learn the family trade. This is something unique. In today's world, after school, you go back to do more tuition work, play computer games, watch Facebooks. Is that your family trade? In the Jewish culture, every family has a trade. That means they are in business or something like that, carpenter or they are fishermen. So after school, the kids went back to learn from their family trade, their parents. So which means that the parents were one of those that gave them the greatest wisdom and education. And on the second stage, those who learn, well, they now learn the Jewish art of questioning answers. And they were always trained to be curious. Now, that is a profound wisdom. To learn, we need to be curious. We need to understand, wanting to understand. Like what King Solomon asked for, an understanding heart. What do I not understand? That's the very key thing about learning. Once we begin to ask ourselves this, what do we not understand, we begin to search for more answers. And the more answers we search for, the more knowledge we get, and the more knowledge with more application gives us more wisdom. And that was the second stage of the students. And on the third stage, those who are really smart enough, they will be given a chance to seek a mentor, a rabbi in their Jewish culture. And after interview sessions, if the rabbi thinks you're good enough, it allows you to become his disciple, for you to learn from him, and you're supposed to carry on what his thoughts, his belief systems are, so that you can be the next rabbi. So, in summary, how do we really acquire wisdom? Now, since we are in Malaysia, I have to show the great Malaysia airline logo. Because in summary, it's all about this Malaysia airline, MAS. What does M stand for? You need to have mastery. Age of 5 and 6 onwards, you go to school to gain mastery, to internalize knowledge. The next level, you need to know how to ask questions, to have the curiosity, to want to learn more, to have an understanding heart. And the third and last one is to get a coach and seek for mentors. The lecturers, the coaches in our life can help us by kicking us to move forward, to move out of our comfort zone so that we get to learn more. But this is not what many people seek after they graduate. And I have the privilege of learning from some of the world's best, right, including Anthony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki. And these are the people that helped me to be where I am today. And so, to gain new knowledge, you need to take actions to apply and share what you have learned. And then you seek understanding and feedback with the knowledge to internalize, and that become your daily habits. Success is about creating good daily habits. Learning is about creating good learning habits. So is failure. So when was the last time you picked up or formed a new habit? I'm not too sure. Ask yourself, well, can you start a new habit today? So we're repeatedly doing what we are excellent at. And I'd like to ask you to discover this thing called change, so that you can change your inner world, change the way you learn, and change the world we live in. I'll end you with a simple video. Thank you.